Dabbles in property a lot. He's Pete Muraya. He's the managing director of Suraya Property Group. Many thanks for dropping by.
Thank you very much.
And we want to find out from you, because every time I have somebody who's in property, I always ask them this on the show. Why is it too expensive to get a house?
I think the issue is about land. It's very expensive at the moment, and you can't find serviced land. So as long as the land is not available or the price of land is very high, then it becomes very expensive.
Right.
The government doesn't have a lot of land to give out. And just to give you an example, 5 years ago, an acre in Kilimani was going for 24 million.
Yes.
The same acre today is costing 140 million.
Wow.
Now, that's 6 times the
what
price.
It used to be.
It means that if you're putting up the same number of apartments, 24 units, and you're dividing 140 over 16 units or 24 units, you're going to end up paying about 5-6 million per apartment just on land value.
Right.
So we need more serviced land from the government. I think the solution is part of what we're trying to do as Suraya.
And what is that?
Opening up undeveloped areas. If you look at a project like Four Ways, which is at the junction of Kiambu and the new bypass, Northern Bypass.
Right.
We basically went out into an area where it is completely undeveloped. There is nothing in that area. It was a half-acre sort of zone. And the idea was to create an area that caters for the upper middle class.
Yes.
In terms of the type of units. The houses are not very big, 3 and 4 bedroom.
Right, like what we have on screen.
Like, yes, plus apartments. But it also has other, what we call lifestyle amenities. Like what you're showing now is the office blocks.
Right.
And shopping malls. Because people are also looking for the lifestyle elements in developments. They're simply not looking at just a house to live in. So elements like the shopping mall add a lot of value, because if you go there, it's easy to get your products, and also the social side of things, cinemas. We also have clubhouses and other amenities within the estate. But we had to get special sort of approval from City Council because of the area that it's in. But to do this also, because the land is not serviced in this area, we are providing our own sewer system within the estate. And just to give you an idea, the sewer system is costing about close to 80 million shillings. To
get that in?
Treatment plant.
Wow.
Which we are getting from South Africa. So the issue is services. I mean, there's potential to develop. There's a demand for housing.
Right.
But there's not enough serviced land. If you look at the sewer system, it's not been expanded for, I think, close to 10 years. So we are still working with areas where it is there right now, which is the Kilimanis, Kileleshwa, South B, South C. Then, because those are the areas that have services, then you have to pay a lot more to build in those particular areas.
All right, so I want you to debunk this myth for us. Everybody says property prices in Nairobi are overpriced and it's all set for it's going to come down at some point. It's not sustainable.
I don't think it will come down. And I mean, yes.
And come down dramatically here?
No. I don't think the houses, yes, are overpriced. And like I said, the reason is the land values. But again, there's a demand. Surprisingly, you find apartments selling in Kilimani for 20 million and they're being taken.
Right.
Which means there's a demand. But I think it will slow down, and I think we need government intervention in that sense.
In what? Yes, the government needs to come in and do what?
And actually open up new areas. Either in terms, they've done a lot in terms of roads, because if you look at the roads like the Northern Bypass, Southern Bypass, Thika Road, that opens up areas for development, new areas, and it's an excellent idea because then people will move easy in and out. But we need to service this land. And again, there's a structure being put in place by government, but it's not been fully utilized, or they've not been able to do it, where they want to partner with developers and they do the infrastructural development. But so far, I don't think there's any project they've managed to do as a government. But if they do that, then people will start shifting, because it's about, people are looking for 2 things. One is access. How is it to get out of the area into the main CBD?
And be able to access any of the amenities, yes.
There's an element they're talking about, the railway line, for example, where they want to do the Embakasi up to the river. If they do that, it will change the whole way of living in Nairobi. And that's one of the things that would actually bring prices down. Because if you lived in the river and it takes you 10 minutes by train to Nairobi, there's no reason why you shouldn't live there.
Exactly.
And if there are other amenities like schools, shopping malls, entertainment areas, sports grounds, there's really no reason why you need to be in Kilimani, right? But it's about communication, distance, and time. And if the government can come in and put in the infrastructure in place, private developers, we are ready. And we have capacity, and the demand is there in terms of the buyers.
All right, and given how much it costs to get a house, we've just been showing even for four ways about 16 million even for a 4-bedroom one. It means a lot of people, even the ones you target, there it is, 12 million, 13.5 million, 16 million. It means you can't really just take this off your bank account. You need to get into a mortgage, but people don't understand mortgages. What do you need to look out for?
I think one thing we have to appreciate is that the mortgages industry has really expanded. 5 years ago, we only had savings and loan and housing finance. And in fact, 10 years ago, if you wanted to do a project, you had to go to them first, get approval first.
Before you can.
Before when you did the project. I think today we think at what is happening. Almost every bank has a mortgage product. And all the big banks, small banks, medium banks have a mortgage product. That's a fantastic thing that has happened to this country because it enables a lot more buyers in terms of you can qualify for different types of houses. Today, most of these banks will not touch what they used to call SMEs and Juakali artisans, and even professionals like us.
Right.
It was very difficult as an architect, if you're in private practice or a lawyer, to qualify for a mortgage.
Exactly.
Because they considered it as sort of risky. But
your income was not exactly
it's not
guaranteed.
exactly consistent.
Yes.
So they prefer people whose salary is consistent.
And you can show a pay slip and say, this is how much I make every month.
But today, the banks have changed. They are taking lawyers, private sector, SMEs for mortgages based on your business and looking at your cash flow. So it means there's a lot more buyers out there now who can qualify for mortgage. The key to look for is actually the interest rate. Try and get a longer term as well in terms of repayment, because if you can get to 15 years plus, it becomes a lot more closer to the current rental aspect of what you're paying now. My advice to buyers is it's very simple in terms of right now you might think the mortgage is expensive because realistically, whatever you buy, the mortgage will be more expensive today than your rental in whichever area you go to.
Yes.
If you take, for example, if you're living in South B today, you could be paying a rent of 40,000.
Yes.
If you want to buy a flat in South B, it may be 6 million shillings. The mortgage will be closer to 60,000, 70,000 shillings.
Right.
But what you should remember is that there's a study that has been done. Every 7 years, the rental doubles, which means, but yet your mortgage is more or less consistent.
Over the entire period.
Which then means that today, if your mortgage is 70 and your rent is 40, it may look very high. 7 years down the line,
your mortgage will still be 70.
Your mortgage will still be 70. Your rent will be 80. By the time you're hitting 14 years, your rent now is maybe 130.
Yes.
And your mortgage is still 70 or 50. So you find that over time, it sounds expensive, but if somebody looks at it that way, then it's better to actually get into a mortgage now. And the earlier you can do it, the better for you.
Right.
The other thing is, don't necessarily, I think the other mistake people are making, especially the young people, is you want to buy where you live today, because a lot of people want to rent in Kilimani, Kileleshwa, South B, Westlands. But the point is to go wherever you can afford today. Because even in Komorok today, for example, if you buy a house today, even take Buruburu. A few years ago, Buruburu was 1.5 million shillings.
Right.
Today it is 6-7 million shillings. The idea is to actually buy and use the capital appreciation of the property to upgrade, rather than trying to getting stuck in where you are today. So go even further out of the city center and buy in a cheaper area. And then over time, you get a capital appreciation of your property, which is you will not get as rental, right? Which means that though it might sound high in terms of the repayment right now, 10 years down the line or 5 years down the line, that property is worth double what you paid for it. And because, again, banks have changed, today they're letting you cash out on that appreciation, which you can now use to buy something else.
Okay, I want you to use again the example of 4 ways to explain for us what sort of demand are you seeing, and for example, when do you expect this to be complete?
The demand for 4 ways, especially the phase 1, was overwhelming. We put on the market 230 units. They were sold out in about 3 months. So we're actually building, everything we are building now, which is 230 units, is sold out last year. And we're basically just building for the owners now. We should finish the phase 1 by December, February latest. We are now pre-selling phase 2 because Suraya specializes in pre-sales.
Right.
We pre-sell the units before we start building them. So at the moment we are selling the phase 2, which is 300 units, and it's a mix of apartments plus the townhouses you're seeing. And we have tried to again cater for the various markets from about 5 million shillings to the 16 million shillings.
Right.
So we have different types of units. One must remember again about the location. The land is 5 minutes from the UN. So if you're buying it as an investment, I'm sure by the time they're finished, the UN staff would list areas like this because we provide security, we provide services, we provide garbage collection, the clubhouse and amenities. So it's going to be a very nice area to live in at the end of the day. And because of those close proximity to something like UN, you're going to get very good tenants at the end of the day. So it may sound expensive now, but again, compared to the area you're in, where Runda houses are costing 50, 45 million, to get a house for 16 million is a good deal.
All right, but this seems like a significant investment.
It is. But again, if you think of going forward, by the time the whole project is complete in another maybe 3 years, the values will double. I'm almost certain that the houses that we started off at 13 million will be hitting 25, 26 million in 3 years' time. Yeah.
Okay, generally, your final musings on property as a whole, somebody who's looking at this property and is not exactly sure is it should buy, rent, what would you tell them?
I would say buy. And my advice is it doesn't have to be a house even. The point is that buy what you can afford today. Because even if you buy a plot today in somewhere like, take Ruai for example, 3, 4, 5 years ago, you could get a plot for maybe 200,000, 100,000. But today it's appreciated maybe to 500,000, 600,000.
Right.
So it's better to buy. You will never go wrong if you put your money in property. So whether it's a house, whether it's a land piece, buy, right? And look at the capital appreciation of that property. Thika Road, for example,
it's opening up.
It's opened up. Property which was 500,000, you could get a quarter acre for 300,000, 400,000, 200,000, 300,000. Today it's 1 million, right? Because of time.
Right.
So my advice is buy, and don't worry too much about whether you don't have to live there. Take it as an investment. The return over 7 years is better than putting money in the bank.
Okay,
Yes.
Fascinating. I guess I can't say anything after that.
Thank you.
Many thanks, Peter Muraya, for coming by.
Thank you very much for your time.
And he's the managing director of the Suraya Property Group, which is working on that 4 ways junction like you saw there.